Emancipation Day. We're doing it from Canada. Tomorrow is that day, August 1st. So we're going to be celebrating. We're going to be building. We're going to be planting those seeds in that fertile living soil so we can grow those good trees and those good fruits. Because this is Emancipation Day. It's the time, every day is the time to put the knowledge and the wisdom together, to bring together understanding the best parts of that knowledge and wisdom and grow beautiful families. Today being July 31st, it is understanding knowledge in supreme mathematics. So let's do some understanding on the knowledge of emancipation. We're up here in Canada, Britain Commonwealth, Church of England. Church of England in 1807 said, by law, no more slave trading, no more ships going back and forth. Okay, that's 1807. It took from 1807 to 1833 to free the slaves. They freed the slaves in 1833. Emancipation Day is what we're celebrating. Now, Britain freed the slaves, but there's a catch. You know, emancipation. People think, when you hear emancipation, they used to think Emancipation Proclamation. They're thinking, Brother Abe. Abe freed the slaves. A lot of Abe lovers out there. Me? No. But yes, Abe freed the slaves. Abe freed the slaves. But there's a reason Abe freed the slaves and Britain freed the slaves and the world freed the slaves due to a long-term business plan. And I'm going to tell you that. We mentioned emancipation, Britain with Wilberforce in the Church of England, a leader of abolition, freeing the slaves. That's their guy they tote. That's the big guy they tote. That's true. He did some stuff. But in that same church, there was a lot of slave owners. And those slave owners in Wilberforce's church, in the Church of England, just like the Confederates in the South or the American slave owners in the South, the reason they freed the slaves is because they were all paid reparations. Slave owners in the Americas, in the British Commonwealth, from the British royalty, from the banks of London, paid the slave owners reparations because they were losing their slaves. In America, they paid $7,000 per slave in today's money. In Britain, they paid $15 billion to slave owners for their loss of an asset. What do we get? When we talk about reparations out here, people get lit. You wouldn't, you know, my people. Too many of my people get way too lit when reparations come up with all their tripping over. $15 billion was paid to the white folks. Okay, $15 billion. Now, what did that money go to? A third of the trusts that the Britain has were trusts set up that they got from the money from that. And those trusts built what? The universities or schools or industries or trading complex. A lot of those people who owned slaves who got lots of money were the insurance companies, were the bankers. So the people who insured slavery, that insured the slave roads, who were the bankers who did exchange the money for the slavers. Those were the ones who owned slaves, who also got this money because they lost slaves. Okay. So then what happened? Let's frame this, because this goes, you know, it doesn't stop there. That's what we got to stop this with our history lessons. We learn one piece and we stop there and we run with that knowledge. 1833, Britain, let's just focus on Britain, paid $15 billion to their slave owners. Then, in 1835, 2 years later, they laid out a map of Africa and carved up Africa and said, who wants what and who's taking what? Belgium, Britain, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, all the slavers got together and said, which part of Africa you want? Okay, now realize this. They all just got $15 billion or more. Now they got all that money to invest. Now they're like, hey, go to Africa. So they use that money to go to Africa to rob it of its land, wealth, and resource. Now, those borders are still in place today. Those contracts are still in place today, and we're still living by those contracts today. So let's frame that emancipation. How does that look? We're out here celebrating the day where the same people who gain their wealth get the day off to celebrate it. They were paid reparations to go then in 1835 and rob the continent. And let's also frame this right. So when the banks gave Britain all that money, they're like, you know, but this money has to be paid back. But it's going to be paid back through taxes and stuff. We're not going to make, you know, all pay it back. You gave it to. We're going to charge the worker to pay it back. So in 2015 is when the loan for the slave reparations just got paid off in Britain. So all the Windrush generation, all the black folks, brown folks around the world who had anything to do with Britain trade, or any kind of trade agreement or country doing anything, your money was going to pay off the slavers who enslaved your family, who robbed your land, who took your wealth and resource. And now we send those children to those same places and those institutions that were designed and built with that money for their brains to get educated and indoctrinated and constipated. Understand, If you understand the actions in which you do, built off knowledge and wisdom, will drive you in different directions. Okay, when we're talking about reparations, reparations is not a scholarship through these same indoctrinated places to get our mind constipated. Emancipation is to get our mind back to the African sacred sciences, which taught us how to express our best physical and genetic potential and family to live to the best of our God-given divine right. Oldest relative is God. I mean, you know, Mau Mau got reparations. Now understand, there was a bunch of rich black folks. There was a bunch of black folks who had their shit together. You know, they even bought slaves in order to free their own people. So let's get this right, because, you know, paperwork. Those black folks who bought slaves and owned slaves on paper, there's a small fraction, but some of them got the reparations for losing their slaves. So some black folks were getting the hustle, I'm rich, I'm together, I'm saving my people, I'm buying your freedom, and on paperwork, I own you, but I freed you. But I'm gonna file this paperwork so I can get some of that reparations money. I like to find out who those families are to celebrate. Man, you must have done it for that reason. I've been hustling, but yo, that's a good frame. That's a good frame. But when we understand this, we won't be out here buck dancing and celebrating too much. You know, Britain didn't do us a favor. Britain didn't do nothing for us. They didn't emancipate you. That word emancipation is what's good for our mind and for our people today. But it's not Britain. Britain made the slaves, which they freed from 1833, work for 4 to 6 more years. 4 to 6 more years for free. They called it indentured servitude, and they said it was to train blacks in order to build their own nation, to build their own families, to build their own wealth and resource, so they didn't have to beg for nothing, but they could provide for themselves. Before 1833, we had great nations. In the height of slavery, in Jim Crow, we had great nations, great family, great wealth. We had it then, so why don't we have it now? Because they tell me they trained me to build it, but instead of training me to build it, we seem to have lost it all. People talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, Tulsa. That's right. The Tulsa riots happened. That's right. We got bombed. They destroyed Tulsa, the massacre, but nobody tells you that they built it back better. Run that cipher. But anyway, don't be caught buck dancing out here on Emancipation Day. Understand your history, understand your knowledge. Remove the mystery by learning your history to work your black magic. Brother James Small's piece to that. Joshua Mupanga teaching us strong. Understand the Berlin Conference, the Wannsee Conference. Understand what 1833 happened in 1835 in the carving up of Africa. Understand how that wealth was transferred. And understand how the largest bailout ever in history. The second was the bailout of slaves, slavery reparations that they paid to white folks who lost their slaves. That was the second largest bailout. The first largest bailout was in 2008. In 2008, we bailed out the same people, the same institutions, the same trust that they bailed out in 1833. Obama, bro, ain't you Prince Hall, bro? You took out all that money, you paid off the same slave owner family trusts that were built up and bailed them out? Bro, frame that better. People do your work. Just because you old don't mean you're an elder. All right? Respect for Obama as a father, though, man. Nothing but love. But as a politicians, we got issues, bro. We got big issues, bro. African Union, bro. The bailout, bro. Yo, man. You be a little hard on the brother right now. Because usually when you got that strong black woman by the black man's side, you ain't scared of nothing. You know? You know what we wish for Obama? That he would have acted like Trump. Tear up contracts, speak bold, not care about what anybody says, because he got that strong woman to go home to. He don't need none of your assurance. Build back though, better, bro. Come see me. Yo, Obama, Mupanga, Megan, over there in the royal family. Don't give all that money up and go back and get that money and disperse it over here. Invest in my business. We'll get this back to the people who they stole it from. African dollar, African Union, African money, diaspora, reconnect. Big words. Emancipation Day in Canada, come find us. Let's drop real seeds. You know, it's the International Decade by the United Nations for African people. We got the African Black Summit going in Halifax right now. We got the Emancipation Day coming up. Anybody talk about these reparations? Where that money go? Who's funding what right now? So if you're super black and you're going to these institutions to get indoctrinated in the same institutions that were used in slavery, got the money, built the institutions of education, and that's where you're going to study, Be careful. Mau Mau. Peace.